Now let's just look at the dietary laws, which are also, there's a lot of commonality between the dietary laws of Muslim and Judaism. One's table at home is deemed to be analogous to the table of the Lord. So when they have a food on table, they would almost think that this is the table of the Lord, because Allah has provided this food, or Yahuwah has provided this food, same God, or God has provided, so they would say this is the table. So when they would sit for having food, they would always recite a prayer, which is in fact like thanking their God or thanking Allah for providing that food. Like when we say to our children, when you start to eat, start with your right hand, recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, so that Allah is the one who has actually provided this food for you. Remember Allah, so that you can thank Him. A similar thing a Jew is expected to do. There are certain animals that are considered unclean and they should not be eaten. In this category would fall pigs. It would also fall fish without scale or fins. So you see the commonality. A Muslim would also never eat a pig, but Muslims would eat the fish, because again we know that anything that's in the sea is permitted. But for a Jew, they will not eat any fish. So like an eel or a crab or a lobster or things like that, fish without a scale or fins, they will not eat, from a Jewish point of view. Edible animals must have split hooves and chew their cud, must be properly slaughtered in a kosher way, and their blood must be fully drained, washed, treated with salt before the meat can be eaten. Now remember, as Muslims, we are permitted to eat Jewish meat. We are permitted to eat the kosher meat, and you see that Islamic laws are also very similar to this. We need to slaughter first, and what are the cattle, what are the what are the animals that we are allowed to slaughter? Cow, goat, many other things. And again, this criteria must be there. They also must have a split hooves, and they must chew their cud, which means like a cow does, it eats the food. That's the way it is done. It must be slaughtered properly. Again, the blood must be drained out for a Muslim also. But Jews go a further step. They drain all the blood from the meat. So they will also soak it in salt so that the meat is taken out. But from an Islamic point of view, we are permitted that if there is a blood which stays on the meat, that's allowed for us. But Jews take it even a step further. Now, one more restriction that is there in Judaism, and this is not there in Islam, is meat and milk product cannot be eaten together. They cannot be cooked together. They cannot be stored together. They cannot be kept together. Very, very strict about that. In Islam this is not there, but within Judaism, if on one side of in a kitchen meat is being cooked, they will not actually cook or boil meat on the other side, because the vapors would be meeting. Again, this is their own thing, but they are not eaten together, not even cooked together. Now, in their worship and practice, like I said earlier, the day that is important is the day of Sabbath, which is the Saturday. This is the day on which they will pray to Allah and they will not do any work. This is the seventh day, is the Sabbath, day of Sabbath, when no work is permitted. For a Muslim, we are not allowed to work on a Jummah after the first azan for the Jummah has been called. And this is a Quranic instruction. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu iza nudiyatis salati min yawmil jumati fas'aw ila zikrillahi wa zarul bay' zalikum khairul lakum in kuntum. That, O you who believe, when the prayer of Friday prayer is called, then spend time in doing zikr of Allah, and do not do any business. This is a hukum. And this is better for you. The same is there for Jews, that Muslims are it's not allowed for you to do any business after the Jummah azan has been there. So all work must stop. We don't see this practice in our societies. We never see that. The shops are open, people are phoning, people are still working in their office. Although once a Jummah prayer is there, any business transaction that is done, any business transaction that is in the category of a makruh transaction. It is not permitted. It's a makruh transaction which is done after the sounding of Jummah prayers and before the ending. But once the prayers have ended, then you can go down and earn and do everything. I think that's something for us to understand. Now, a Jew on Saturday, he would not perform any work. On this day, he is expected to actually spend his entire time in worship of Allah. It took Jews 100 years, I'm not exaggerating, it took Jews 100 years to define what work is. Because they are very, nitpicky people. They would go and do, like we say, na baal ki khal utarna. So they would say, is putting on a shoe doing work? Is brushing a work or not? Is answering the telephone work or not? And they have gone in and on and in and in. They have forgotten that day they should actually remember Allah. They don't remember Allah much. They don't remember Allah. What they're really concerned about is the ritualistic part of this. That should I change my pants or not? Should I shave or not? If somebody answers the bell, should I open the door or not? Can I answer my mobile phone or not? They're more concerned on this side, but forgetting the fact that actually this day was there for remembering of doing zikr of Allah. That's there. So on the seventh day, which is the day of Saturday, the Jew must return the world to its owner, which is God. So it's a day that they must remember Allah. And Sabbath is to be spent in prayers, in study, and in rest. And that is how these people do. And now let's just go on. Now that we've really understood the Sharia, at least part of the Sharia of how a Jew would be eating and praying and what are his practices, let's look at where they came in from. I mean, we'll look at this ayat and then we're going to talk about this. In Quran, there are 26 prophets who are mentioned in Quran. I'm going to trace those through a chart so that you can really appreciate and understand. This is where humanity began, with Adam alayhi salam, the first prophet who was sent to this world. And then the Quran mentions the name of 4 prophets, Idris, Nuh, Hud, who was sent towards Ad and Saleh, and who was sent towards Madian. And then we have Ibrahim alayhi salam and his nephew Lut alayhi salam. This is sent to Sodom and Gomorrah. And Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam had 3 wives. His first wife was Bibi Sarah, and then Hajra, and then Keturah. Keturah had 5 sons. We don't know about anything about them. But from Sarah and Hajra, we have a son. His name was Ishaq, and he was settled in Syria. He was born nearly when Ibrahim alayhi salam was about 100 years old. So wow, that's a pretty old someone. And this is a special gift that Allah gave to him. We're going to see this whole story coming in Quran. And then there are chain of prophets that came in from Ishaq alayhi salam. Chains of prophet will go down, but from Ismail, who was from his mother was Hajra. From Hajra, there is no other prophet other than our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is from the same chain, and he was Ibrahim alayhi salam was 86 years old. He was 86 years old when he was blessed with this with his son, which was from Hajra and Ismail, and then our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was about 570 AD. So for many thousand, for nearly about 3,000 years or 2,500 years or more than that, he had no other son, and then came our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now from Ishaq, whose mother was Sarah, he was settled. He had a son called Yaqub alayhi salam. And Yaqub alayhi salam had 12 sons. This is what Bani Israel is. The 12 sons of Yaqub alayhi salam is what Bani Israel is, the 12 tribes which are there. I'm going to show you a chart. One of the sons was also Yusuf. Yusuf alayhi salam was the son of Yaqub alayhi salam from one of his wives, and he was a prophet. He was sold, as slavery, sold as slavery. And then came Shuaib and Ayub, and then from that Musa and Harun, and then Daud and Suleiman and Ilyas and Yasa and Zakariya, and then Yahya, and the last of them was Isa alayhi salam. These were all prophets whose chain you can actually trace back to Ishaq alayhi salam and then back to Ibrahim alayhi salam. But we are related to Ibrahim alayhi salam through the chain, which was actually our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was from Ismail alayhi salam, and then whose father was Ibrahim alayhi salam. So this is really the chart or the history of all the prophets that are described in Quran. Tonight we will not be looking at many of these prophets. Actually, at some point in time, I would be going through a presentation of lots of them. So just sort of you can get a feel and see how just to put some kind of a life in all of them, rather than thinking they're just a name. We will be looking at tonight at some of them. We'll be talking about Dawood alayhi salam. We'll also be talking of Sulaiman alayhi salam. So tonight we're going to be looking at this part of the chart. This is the part of the chart that we will be focusing on and looking at them and looking at what these people did. In fact, this is what is being referred to in the Quran. I'm sure none of you knows where is Talut, how is Talut coming into the picture, because we are going to talk about that and I will actually tell you about that. So let's just focus on this lineage. Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam, mother Hajra, mother Sarah, and Keturah, 5 sons. From Ishaq alayhi salam and Sarah as a mother, two sons, Isu, we don't know much about him, and Yaqub, their mother was Rebecca, and from them, Yaqub alayhi salam, he had 4 wives, Leah, Rachel, Bilham, and Zilpah, and from them, Yaqub alayhi salam had 12 sons, Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Zublin, Yusuf, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. We're not going to talk about much about them. We're going to talk about Yusuf alayhi salam. There's a whole surah in Quran which is called Surah Yusuf. So there is a reason for that, inshallah. But this is where Yusuf alayhi salam comes in. He is the son of Yaqub alayhi salam, just for you to remember that. Therefore, Bani Israel really are the descendants of a common ancestor. And that common ancestor is Yaqub alayhi salam. Like I said, he was son of Ishaq alayhi salam, who was son of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So Yaqub alayhi salam's grandfather was Ibrahim alayhi salam, who had been given this name Israel. Yaqub was given this name Israel as a sign of his special relationship with Allah. Yaqub alayhi salam had 12 sons. Each one of them was an ancestor of a tribe, and that tribe is called Bani Israel. That's where Bani Israel really comes in, the 12 sons of Yaqub alayhi salam, each one of them. Now this is the old map of various tribes who were living in Palestine. You see all these names over here, Benjamin, Judah, Gad, Reuben, etc. These were all tribes living in this area, and they were all the 12 tribes that were in this is what is called Canaan, or the area which is what you call Palestine. This is where they were living at. Now, Bani Israel migrated to Egypt when Yusuf alayhi salam was first sold as a slavery. The sons, these 12 sons that are there, they were very jealous of him, so they threw him into a well. He was picked up by a caravan, a group of traders. They took him and they brought him to Memphis, which is a city in Egypt now. In Memphis, they sold him as a slave, and he was purchased by one of the amirs, or one of the rich people of Memphis, and he became a servant in his house, and they said, if he's going to be good, maybe we make him a son. And then he rose from there in fame because of his tremendous character that he displayed, and then because he was such an attractive man and such a handsome man that the women over there would fall in love with him, and as a result he was then thrown into a prison, and then from prison, because of interpreting the right dream of the Pharaoh, he became the finance minister of Egypt, and because he rightly interpreted this dream. So he became the second most powerful man in Egypt, which is with the pharaohs, with the pharaohs. He was one of the second most powerful men, and at that time when he reached to this point, he invited his father, who had become very old by that time, and his 11 other brothers to migrate from all this place, which is they were settled over here, and they migrated and they came and started to live in Memphis. They lived over here for nearly about 300 years. They had tremendous position, and then the Pharaoh changed, etc. And these people they were made slaves again, and so they lived in slavery till the time that they were taken out by Musa alayhi salam. Now, then because of the fact that Bani Israel were living in a tremendous difficulty, Allah sent a messenger to them, and that messenger came in form of Musa alayhi salam. Musa was also a part of their part. In fact, he had fled from Egypt because he was actually, Musa alayhi salam lived with the son of the Pharaoh. After his mother had put him in a basket and put him in the river, he was picked up by the queen over there, and she made him a son, and she also had one more son, so they both lived together in the palace. So he grew up as a young man in the palace till the time he realized that these people are godless people, and he came out in the city, and as a result, accidentally he killed a person, and then he fled from there and he went to Madian, and from Madian He was coming back, and then in a place where they have a monastery around in Sinai. Here he was given the honor to become a messenger of Allah, because he was called to the burning bush. Allah spoke with him, and as a result Allah said, go back to Israel, to Egypt, and take Bani Israel out of the bondage. So this is and then he asked that, I cannot do that because Musa alayhi salam, they said that he was not such a vocal, not a person who could speak very well. So he said, please make my brother as a messenger. And so Harun alayhi salam, who was the brother of Musa alayhi salam, he was also given a prophethood, and they both went into Egypt, and they lived with them. And Pharaoh was not willing to release them, and there were all these plagues that came in. Finally, Musa alayhi salam was given permission, and he took Bani Israel at night, and he wasn't really permitted, but he took Bani Israel at night, all these people, and this is what is called Exodus. It means that they moved away from Egypt and the Pharaoh followed them. He was drowned, and then the Israelites, these 12 tribes, they traveled to this holy mount of Sinai. Here Yahuwah, which is what they call, like we say Allah, they say Yahuwah, made Israel his own people, and as a seal of covenant, he gave Musa alayhi salam the Torah, which is what Torah literally means, a law, and the which also included the 10 commandments. And inshallah, we'll look at all these 10 commandments at some point in time, so you'll see the wisdom that is there. Now this is Mount Sinai. I'm sure a lot of you would not know where Musa alayhi salam went. So this is the view that you're seeing. This is Mount Sinai. This is where Bani Israel would be staying for nearly a year, and Musa alayhi salam in one of the peaks went on top, and there he spoke with Allah, and this is where those tablets of 10 commandments, engraved tablets, were given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I'm going to show you a video. Now we are looking at both these things. Remember, we are looking at history, we are looking at Torah, and we are looking at Quran also. And you'll see this, and in fact the last ayat is going to sum this up very beautifully, how Quran actually gets this history so much right, because it's a word of Allah. Allah knows history better than any human being can know. So you will see that our Prophet had no way of knowing this, and yet he was able to these verses, because they were not written by him, they were sent by Allah. Let's just look at a small video on the Torah.
Who are the people who call themselves Israel? The name is made up of two ancient words, one meaning God, the other to strive. The Torah, written down centuries after the time of the events, describes a group of Canaanite refugees fleeing slavery in Egypt. The date, probably about 1250 BCE. One of the oldest passages of the Torah celebrates their deliverance by their God, a God whose name modern scholars reconstruct as Yahweh, and many Christians pronounce Jehovah. Very Orthodox Jews traditionally never pronounce the holy name at all. They call him the Lord.
Then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to the Lord, saying, I shall sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and rider he has hurled into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my protection. He has become my salvation. The chariots of Pharaoh and his army he cast into the sea. The abyss engulfed them.
The charismatic leader called Moses, the escape route, the chronology of the Exodus, these are matters for which the Bible is our only source, but the fact of the Exodus and its impact are hard to dispute. In the story of mankind, the emergence from Egypt into this wilderness sanctuary would become a universal metaphor, an everlasting symbol of the human need and right to be free. In Jewish tradition, it would be celebrated by generation after generation in the springtime holiday of the Passover, a festival of liberation as fervent as any nation's Independence Day. It evokes the feelings of the liberated tribes leaving the labor camps of the Nile Delta behind them. To them, the Exodus must have seemed nothing less than a miracle, a deliverance so implausible, so incredibly dramatic, that it could only be a divine act. It was evidence of the power of their own special God, not a universal God. There was no single power ruling over human affairs. But the God of this one little group had triumphed over the mighty pharaohs and their gods.
Who is like you among the gods, O Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in fame, worker of miracles?
Some events stand outside history, beyond the challenge of science. What happened to the people of the Exodus may never be established by scholars, but what the Bible says about this awesome place has resonated through the centuries of human experience.
And Moses brought forth the people to meet with God, and they stood at the base of the mountain.
Tradition calls this towering peak the Mount Sinai of Exodus, the landmark of the whole Western religious heritage. At its base, for the last 12 centuries, a Greek monastery has sat in humble attendance. The meaning of this place is commemorated in the words of the Torah. For this is the place tradition identifies with the covenant, the agreement by which the people calling themselves Israel accepted God's law and God promised his blessings.
I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a graven image.
There were laws governing the relationship between man and God.
You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Laws of behavior between men and women, between members of the family.
Honor your father and your mother.
Laws governing the relationships of individuals and society.
You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
By the act of the
You
covenant,
shall not covet your neighbor's
the people of Israel had committed themselves to the rule of law as a holy principle.
So you see this, that these 10 commandments are so important. It's about relationship, it's about the social relationships, it's about individual relationship, it's about society, it's about rule of law. It's as a holy principle that's there. And I think this is so beautiful. It's so much what Quran actually tells us also. And this is what the Exodus is all about. Now this is a picture of Jabal Musa, as they call it, or Mount Sinai. Below this is a place which there is a monastery over here. If you visit Sinai, you can go to this place. On top is said to be the place where Musa alayhi salam received the 10 commandments and he spoke to Allah. They have again a monastery that is there. The Torah was given over here. And the Israelites stayed down over here while Musa alayhi salam had gone for 40 days. And during this time they made a calf for worship. And Musa alayhi salam was very upset with them. Again, we saw that story earlier when we started Surah Baqarah. Now this is the Hijrat route of Musa alayhi salam. He started from here. He moved on, came to Ilim. This is again a town which is important because this is where these people were tested by that fish. A fish would come in and they were said don't gather them, and they would dig the hole so that the fish would go in, and so therefore a great punishment came to them. Afatu'minuna bibadil kitabi wa takfuruna bibad fama jazaa'u man yaf'al zalika minkum illa khizyun fil hayatid dunya wa yawmal qiyamati yuraduna ila ashaddil azab. Ayah that came after that do you believe in the part of the book and reject the rest? And the punishment of those people in this world is that of disgrace, and then in the hereafter they will have a severe punishment because they are believing part of the book and leaving part of the book. Again, this is not just for Jews only. I mean, this is equally applicable for Muslims, that we pick up part of the Quran and we say that we will apply, which we find and we like, and then the part of the Quran that we don't like, we say we don't apply on this on ourselves. So this Quran is very clear. If people are partially obedient, they just cherry pick the Quran, then they're going to be in serious trouble in this world, and then in the hereafter they'll have a bigger trouble. So from here they moved on over here to Mount Sinai. This is where they stayed for a year, and then after 1 year they moved on over here. They moved to this desert of Shur. Now this is a point of significance, because this is where Musa alayhi salam commanded his people, the 12 tribes that he had, to go and fight a group of people over here to enter into the city, and they said, no, we are not going. You and your brother go, and you and your brother and your God go and fight, and when the city is conquered, we will enter in over there. And this was a great disappointment for Musa alayhi salam. He had taken them out of this great torment that they were suffering. He has now given them the book, the law, the 10 commandments, the man and the salwa, and all the goodies that were there. And when they were commanded to fight, they said, we can't fight. And so therefore, as a punishment, they went around this desert for 40 years. And this is the Shur desert. And in this wilderness, Bani Israel were roaming around for 40 years. And Musa alayhi salam died over here. Then first Harun died, Harun alayhi salam died, and Musa alayhi salam died. And then this old generation that was in the bondage, they all died over here, and a new generation came in. And now this is the synagogue that is there, which is what you call the Jewish temple on the Shur desert. This is where these people were, where they were commanded to go and fight, and they refused, the 12 leaders of Bani Israel. And then Allah made them wander around for the desert in 40 years. This is the Shur desert, like I told you earlier, where they were continuously doing that. And after 40 years, during this, like I said, this is a picture of the same desert. During this 40 years, the slave generation that was there, they died, and a new generation came up who were born in freedom, and they were more, they reached to their maturity. And then during this time in Mount Hur, this is where Prophet Harun alayhi salam, he died, and he's buried on this mountain. On top of this mountain, you will see this is the tomb where he's buried. This is in a place which is called Man in Jordan. If you go to Jordan, actually you can drive up to this place on top of the hill. This is where Harun alayhi salam said that this is his grave, and I'm going to show you a closer view of that. This is the tomb of on Mount Hur of Harun alayhi salam. Then after this, Musa alayhi salam died. I think they say that he was nearly about 130 years old in Mount Nebu. The archaeological remains that have been found. There is also a monastery over here to mark the place where this is his resting place, the last place of Musa alayhi salam, and on top of that, this is said to be the place where he died. This is near Madab, which is again a town in Jordan, close to on top of Mount Nebu. This is a site near Madab, and this is his tomb. This is one of the Moab, a very important town, which is called the King's Highway. This is connecting Damascus with Gulf of Aqaba. This town was conquered by Musa alayhi salam, and it became a center of trade and commerce. And this is, as far as the history is concerned up till now. Now let's just look at this ayat now. Now we really see, we have reached to this point. Now Bani Israel are out in freedom, and they have now become free, and now they have reached to a point where both the prophets who were there with them, Musa as well as Harun alayhi salam, they have both died. 40 years they have been in wilderness, and so therefore now when Musa alayhi salam died, he actually left them another one of his disciples. His name was Yusha bin Nun. He ruled for 25 years. And then for 300 years, Bani Israel had a very checkered history. Sometimes they were really defeated. They lapsed into idolatry. They left this belief in one God. They had many different gods taken in. They deserted the worship of one Allah. And as a result, after that, a prophet was sent to them. And this prophet, whose name was Samuel, and this is the ayat 246 that we will do now. And this is where we, all this story I was giving to you was so that you understand who this prophet was. He's not named in Quran, but in Bible his name is said to be Samuel, and he was from the tribe of Levi. And this is around 1100 1100 BC.